Welcome back, Steve Ploetz.
Thank you.
What's up, my friend? Buyers or sellers market right now. I have a feeling we're going to disagree, mostly because I always disagree with you. But I'm guessing you're going to say sellers market.
I am going to say seller's market. And I'm going to have data and some
really?
tricks. Why do you think I'm wearing the jacket?
I was going to
say.
So
all my tricks are up the sleeves here.
Well, they're definitely not in your wallet.
Well, I could fit my sleeves in the wallet, actually.
That's where you took
Isn't the wallet shaming at the end of this bit?
It's supposed to be at the end.
It's already starting.
That's where you got the jacket from. It came out of the wallet.
Yeah, that's exactly. And then put it on.
So you said you have data that says we're in a,
yes.
a seller's market?
So as an agent, I subscribe to numerous areas where it pulls data, and Altos is one of these.
Okay.
Anybody can pull from ALTOS, which it looks at specific markets, and it does it by zip code. So I live in North County, up in Vista, and so I pulled all of North County, the individual zip codes, which are like Carlsbad has 4 zip codes. So I looked at 92008, 92009, 92010, 92011, and each one of these zip codes, all of the, literally 100% of the data that I pulled today, May 3rd, for these specific zip codes either has the market action index, which is, think of it as the teeter-totter for is this more of a seller's market or is this more of a buyer's market, and then they say neutral, strong, or one just mild. All of them said either strong seller's market in all these specific zip codes or seller's market. And I'm more than happy to, since we're on Facebook, there is the ability that I can go back and put the data in. I'm more than happy to provide that, but Altos. That's
Altos Research, yeah, very familiar.
That's where I pulled all of that from. Now, again, as we talked about before we've gone live here, is that I try to not use the micro of my own personal business as the macro of what's going on in San Diego County, but if 6 currently in escrow, 5 of them had multiple offers, whether I'm on the buying side or the selling side. So to me that says either 5.
At list, below list, or above list?
That's a great question. And I didn't look at exactly that data, but most are at list or over. I don't think that there's anything that's multiple offers
under
that are under. I'm 100%. There's nothing that is multiple offers that are under. And some of the numbers are significantly over. I mentioned to you at the first quarter, which was all of, I mean, it's crazy that now we're in May. 2-3 months ago, I had a client, there were multiple offers and the house sold $400,000 over asking price. That makes you go,
that's insane.
Oh. We've missed out. I've had clients that have missed out on a couple of properties with one had 19 offers, one had 25 offers. To me, Derek, that is not a buyer's market. Sell me on a buyer's market. Now, I will say.
Where are the properties?
And that's what I'm going to say. And it's a great counter argument. It's not San Diego County across the board. If you have a house, a condo, a mobile home, if you own anything, a fifth wheel, now all of a sudden it's a seller's market. So guess what? No matter what you list it at, it's going to sell for over market value. Those communities are Oceanside, Encinitas, La Jolla, Vista. Actually, Vista is the one that did not have multiple offers. And Carlsbad.
So coastal.
So coastal,
okay.
Yes.
So coastal's still there. And that makes sense, you know, because I think that's going to be...
agreeing with my point?
No, but I think it makes sense if we're heading toward a buyer's market, as we are, that coastal would be probably the last place where you would see it.
Right.
Because it tends to trickle from other areas. If we start up in like Temecula and some of those areas, you start to see more inventory, prices actually going down. In fact, even in San Marcos, for example.
Absolutely.
We're seeing prices go down, for real. Chula Vista, we're seeing a lot of stuff in Chula, a lot of inventory in Chula Vista, a lot of prices reductions going on in Chula Vista. So we tend to see in some of the areas that are considered to be further out from the coast, more east, more south, or more north, like Temecula, et cetera, those are the first places where we start to see those hints that, you know what, sellers aren't getting exactly what they want here. This isn't flying off the shelves.
And I will agree with you that in certain types of property, in certain types of markets, and in certain demographics. As an example, I met with an agent before I was coming here who talked to me about a 55-plus community in Oceanside, Ocean Hills, where she has a listing that she feels like is priced really, really well and isn't moving. And I know of another agent that has a client that's looking in Ocean Hills. And I texted her and said, hey, have you seen this other agent's property? And she immediately texted me back and said, too much inventory in Ocean Hills, a lot of opportunities in there where somebody can get a great deal because it's just overwhelmed and agents are begging her for, have your clients write me an offer. That's a buyer's market.
Right.
And granted, that is 55-plus community, so it's a smaller demographic than people can buy it. But I agree that luxury market, we're seeing that, property that'll sit longer, and communities that are not coastal. You had mentioned Temecula, Chula Vista, Escondido, another community where I have a listing that's sitting on the market. San Marcos.
Which is a great community.
Yeah, in San Marcos, we've got a property in escrow that's there, San Alejo Hills. But yeah, no, I agree that, and that's what I think makes San Diego so interesting is the different local markets.
Let me rewind that real quick. I agree, is what Steve Ploetz said to me.
But that was like taken out of context. There was a full sentence there. I agree in certain areas. I know you love always and never, but it's impossible to make a sweeping statement about San Diego.
But you have to.
I agree that we have to, but Vista is so much different than North Park is so much different than Chula Vista is so much different than La Mesa is so. I mean, there you get my point.
They are different, but I mean, if you are a buyer seller in this market, you should know this because you have to know what to expect.
Right.
Like a lot of what I think is going to cause problems in this marketplace are, for lack of a better way to put it, discount brokerages or discount listing agents.
Right.
Because what has happened on the sell side is a lot of sellers have gone, oh, well, how much will you do it for? How much will you do it for? How much will you do it for? Well, they'll do it for this. And so you just get pictures in the MLS and hope it sells. The problem with that is that as soon as you start seeing those price reductions, especially in an area, the mentality shifts.
I agree.
And we've seen that happen in a few different areas. And I think San Marcos is like the most recent victim, which is an amazing area. This shouldn't happen. If you have the right agents who aren't chasing the market down, who are advising you properly, who are telling you list it here, this will probably still get you the number that you're looking for, but we won't look weak.
Right.
Because it is a big negotiation. It's just, let's be honest, sale of real estate is a big-ass negotiation.
Absolutely.
It starts with the negotiation with your realtor on, what are you going to get from them and what are they going to charge you, to, negotiations for repairs, price, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just a big-ass negotiation.
And it never ends. Until escrow closes, you're still negotiating in the middle of the
whole time.
In the middle of the deal. The request for repairs, to your point, the appraisal, the dealing with the renegotiation as it happens. And I agree that becomes part of it. And I also agree with your point that we have our neighbor is selling their house, and it's an unfortunate divorce situation. And so I basically did not want to be a part of it as a neighbor. And they listed with a great agent in the area. And I was very pleased to see that, not just as a real estate professional, but as a homeowner, feeling like, great, I know they're going to get top dollar, they're going to do the things necessary. It's not going to be, let me snap some photos and put it in the MLS and cross my fingers and bury the little statue in the backyard, because and so in the end, that's going to help me on paper. Of course, I'm not turning around to sell the property, but since we're a model match and we live in a tract community, whether they sell $10,000 higher or lower does impact me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I mean, is that there is a trend of getting away from the neighborhood expert and going to the cheapest offer, which causes problems. There's a cascading effect of what happens with that. When you sign up for, the manufactured listing experience, or what we would call the assembly line, listing experience, because at some point, you have to start chasing the market down in most cases. And if you have to do that, it looks really bad. Now, if you're signed up for a lot of these different websites, let's just, Redfin, Zillow, and say Realtor.com, whatever. You're signed up on there and you say, hey, let me know about these different things.
Right.
I want to hear about these properties in this area. Oh, I favorite this one, favorite that one. If you favorite a property on Redfin, for example, they will let you know when anything happens to that property. If there's a price reduction, if it's sold,
open house,
whatever, they send you a notification. This is actually a great way to keep your finger on the pulse in a market, is to go in and look at houses and be like, oh, favorite that one, even if you're not ready to make an offer yet, just to see what the hell's going on. Well, when I start getting 5-6 emails a day in certain marketplaces, price reduced, price reduced, price reduced, that shows me that things are tipping. Now, did it have to happen? It's always a psychological shift. It's never real. It's all not real. It's just, it isn't. There's nothing real about it.
I know.
It's just psychological. Do I feel comfortable making this offer or not? And if I start to see weakness, because remember, it's a big negotiation from the very beginning, from the time they walk in the house. If I start to see weakness in certain areas where there should be lots of activity, the reason I mentioned Temecula and Chula Vista is because I watch those markets very carefully. I feel like they're leading indicators. I do, because that's where a lot of people go when they're looking for value. So this is a little bit further out. You know, I work in Encinitas, but I could buy in Chula Vista or Temecula. Those are the markets I can afford. So here, here's my two options. I want to go north or I want to go south, but I'm going to get about the same value there. Prices in Chula Vista have gone up more than in Temecula, but like wine country in Temecula is like through the roof. Yeah, so I don't even look at that anymore. Yeah, you just have to look over in the subdivisions. Look over in the subdivisions and you start to see more inventory. You start to see price reductions. And a lot of them are really small price reductions, which to me is an even greater sign of weakness. I mean, if you say, all right, I've listed it $439, price reduction, $438, that you're just begging. You're just trying desperately to get back in front of people. You really didn't come back to the market with something new. You came back with the same thing. You're trying to gimmickly get back in front of me.
And I hear you, and here I would say is one of the holes in your argument. One of the holes in your argument is that you're assuming that they are listed at an appropriate price to begin with.
I'm not assuming that. In fact, I'm saying that's one of the biggest problems. It doesn't matter if the price is appropriate or not. It would be better if the price was appropriate, but because we're not going to the neighborhood expert now, we're going to the cheapest guy.
Right. I see what you're saying.
It's not happening. So it doesn't even matter.
So you're saying any price reduction, I just want to understand your argument, any price reduction, whether from over market to market value, or we're listed at quote unquote market value and we're not moving, so we're going to reduce the price. Any price reduction creates a different atmosphere within the buying market, and people and sellers get concerned and feel like maybe I'm losing my value, maybe I'm losing my shirt, and buyers feel like there's opportunity, we can come in and negotiate.
Price reductions in bunches definitely do that.
Okay.
Isolated price reductions don't, but when you start seeing 5, 6 a day, especially from certain areas, and a lot of it's gimmicky, you realize that these properties are sitting longer, at least longer than the sellers expected.
We're planning on.
We're planning on.
Yes.
Because you're not going to call your agent and say.
It's an interesting argument.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that I went out of my way to say it's not real, because it's not. It's just it's an emotional thing, and
it's like momentum in baseball.
Totally, dude. In sports, any sport.
Yeah.
I say the sport that has the most momentum swings is volleyball by far. I can't believe like how crazy the momentum swings are in volleyball. It's insane. Yeah. But it's like that, and so if you start to see these price reductions happen in bunches in an area, then you immediately, the way you look at that area is different. It shifts everything. Because whereas before, if I wasn't seeing any, and the house that I kept wanting was going off the shelf, everything would look like a deal. I gotta get it. I can afford it, I gotta get it. But now, I've seen a couple of them come through, and one was listed at $490, and then they reduced it to $480, and then they reduced it to $470, and then it finally sold at $465. And I'm going, all right, this one's listed at $500. I think I should be able to get that for $35,000 less than they listed it for. It changes the mindset of where you're looking at to come in, because what you've seen, we can't help that. You know, that's what humans do. We are looking for answers. We're always trying to figure out how does this puzzle work. And so those price reductions in bunches, in my opinion, especially in those two marketplaces, are a leading indicator that there's a shift taking place. And I unfortunately think the shift is taking place for reasons that are not true to the market, but are a result of greed, which is always the thing that gets us in trouble one way or the other. And that greed is on behalf of the sellers who are hiring people that they shouldn't be hiring to sell the home. And those people that they're hiring are just saying, well, what do you want to list it for, Mr. Seller?
It's a very interesting argument, and I will need to think about it more. I like the thought that many price reductions within an area potentially creates a different environment, a different buying environment, a different local market environment. I think that ebb and flow is certainly normal within our market. Both this year, last year, a variety of different years where we have seen a lot of activity and then a little bit of a slowdown, or a lot of a slowdown and then a little bit of activity, and that momentum that we joke about within, or I guess we didn't really joke about, but discussed within sports, that we see that within our markets as well. Yeah, I'll need to think about that argument.
Look at the price reductions. Just look at the quantity in some of these different areas. You can pull them up by zip probably,
right,
through your back end, and just look for.
Don't talk about my back end. We're on live here, okay?
I will, because you're sitting like this, and that means one of two things: either gassy or you forgot to take the wallet out.
Giant wallet.
Forgot to take the wallet out.
That's hilarious.
Wallet shame. It is on the list of topics, I promise you. So I guess what my point is I think what we have to discuss here, because I had a feeling we'd be divided on this. The problem is that what you're not seeing, and I like the fact that you realize you can't just look at your listings.
Right.
Because you're doing things the right way.
That's very kind of you to say, Derek.
It's obviously true.
I appreciate that.
It's obviously true. And that is what we're missing. Because when you go with the cheapest person, and there are some, I know there are some agents that are better than what they're turning out, but they feel like they have to do whatever the seller wants.
Right.
And when that happens, now we have people without a driver's license driving the car.
Right.
Can anything but disaster happen from that? I mean, if we go with great speed without having a licensed driver.
It doesn't fail 100% of the time.
No, it doesn't.
And that's the reason that it continues to perpetuate. That's if Redfin sells a lot of houses.
Sure.
So do other, I mean, I Pay One and Help You Sell are out of business, but they have as well. And I think that because there is a threshold for success within that at times consumers are more willing to give that a shot. Mm-hmm. What I tell somebody is, if I'm competing with Redfin and Redfin is charging them 4% and I'm charging them 6%, that's 2%. So at a $500,000 house, that's $10,000 is what I'm charging more. So I need to show $10,000 worth of value. But I agree with you that I do think that, I mean, from my own experience of my neighbor, that I'm happy that they're listing with, in my opinion, a pro, because I know that no matter what it sells for, that's going to be at or close to true market value. My neighbors are not leaving money on the table. I agree with that.
Yeah, but that's important. But not only is it important for the seller, but for the overall psychology of the marketplace. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think there is a shift happening there, and you see it with the price reductions. You see it with the way that homes need to be priced in order to move quickly. Mm-hmm. So the thing about San Diego, the whole San Diego County, is a home that's priced appropriately, that's turnkey and ready to go, is always going to move fast. Always going to move fast. But the key word is priced appropriately. Right. So, you know, when you in a home, I don't care how immaculate and amazing it is, that's not priced appropriately, could sit for a very long time. Right. And you'll see that now. Also run a report on days on market and look at some of the stuff that's been on there for over 180 days. There's a lot more stuff that's been there over 180 days. Now, some would say, but that's a good thing because we're looking at a total amount of inventory that's really low. If half of that is horseshit that's just been sitting there on the market, then really all we have is the other half. Right. And that's what has kept this thing sort of moving, is that that's actually true. The low inventory environment is actually lower than it seems, because a lot of this inventory that we're looking at, these are people who aren't really in the market.
Yeah.
You know, they're just on the market, but they're not really in the market to sell. They're just saying, yeah, I'll take 1.8 for it if somebody buys it for that. Otherwise, we'll just stay here. We've done it up. It's all nice.
I like it. I'm picking up some gems today.
Yeah, well, that's what's going on. So I've been taking a really close look at this.
On the market. They're not in the market.
They're not in the market.
I'm making note of that.
They're on the market, which anyone can be on the market. You know, we see that all the time.
Yeah.
So and I'm making this up, but if let's say half of the homes that are for sale are like that, which is probably not that many, but if it's 25%, then that means the inventory number you're looking at
is actually far less.
Is far less.
Yeah.
And so the lower that is, the more we can perpetuate the higher prices. There's also a threshold that we have approached, and I believe we may have crossed in both of those markets, in Temecula and in Chula Vista. Because, as I said, people go to those areas for the most part because it's affordable. So, hey, we want a 5-bedroom house.
Right.
We got a big family, 2 working class parents.
$525,000.
Yeah. For, under $600, we can get a 5-bedroom, really nice place. And so it makes sense. But again, incomes have not gone up so much in San Diego County that we can continue to run up the affordable areas. They can only go up so much.
I agree.
And we may have hit that threshold in both Temecula and in Chula Vista. And there's obviously a lot in between. So I'm just using those 2 barometers because those are the places where, let's say, a lot of military families choose to go.
Right.
And that's a good barometer. Like, if they can't afford it anymore, then the prices will have to come in.
I agree. I agree that that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to impact our industry is the affordability index. Is that, as we've talked about, the new demographic of buyers that I have seen in the last 18 months has been buyers that have equity in their condo and want to sell that and sell that property so they can get a larger one. Hey, let's move up. And the assisted buyer, a buyer that is 25 years old and has income but doesn't have a 20% or even a 10% down payment, so they're assisted by mom or dad. I think that those assisted buyers are propping up the affordability because they themselves cannot truly afford this house, but they're getting some assistance so that they can step into the market. I'm comfortable with that as well.
Yeah, and those are important things, I think, to look at. I don't think we have a situation where we have lending out of control, or I don't think there's any of these big red flags or the market's going to crash anytime soon. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just saying that as far as price appreciation, that's got to slow down.
Yeah.
It has to. And so if we see also interest rates have crept up a little bit.
Yeah.
We've gotten a little bit of frenzy, which you normally do when that happens, and that seems to have sort of leveled itself out a little bit. But inventory numbers are up in those particular areas. Price reductions are up in those particular areas, and that sort of could be the first domino as far as what happens now, because everyone's going to be making that comparison always. Like if for example, you could get the same thing in Encinitas for the same price as you could in Chula Vista, most people would choose to buy in Encinitas. Makes sense. Now, okay, what if it's the same thing, but it's 100,000 more in Encinitas? Okay, I'd say if someone could afford it, they'd probably rather live in Encinitas, let's say. So at what point does that comparison start to get out of whack?
Right.
And I see a lot of homes that are for sale. I track a lot of different markets using the online tools that are available, and starting to see some things that are a little bit out of whack in those areas as well. So, and I'm not even talking about East County yet, or Rancho San Diego, or some of the other areas that I really like that are also more affordable.
Right.
I'm just talking about those two because they're this kind of the staple, military areas where we'll see people go who are never going to buy, a $1 million home, their first house. They're looking for entry-level, single-family homes. And, some of the prices on some of these attached homes, it's just gotten too high, man. They're just too high.
I agree. I mean, then you get into a different discussion on is this market price too high? Overall, should we wait? Should we not wait? Those kinds of things, which of course brings in the rental market as well. I think what's interesting about both the Temecula market and the Chula Vista market is that their schools have improved significantly, and that's what I think is the biggest draw to people, is that, to your example, mom and dad feel like, okay, we'll commute because we have an established community, that is
Newer
growing,
and newer,
in a lot of, I mean, the East Lake areas, and certainly Temecula has a lot of new growth, and Murrieta, those markets, and the schools are quite good. So I think that's a big draw to both of them. But I do, to your point, I will say that if something is priced appropriately and marketed correctly, it still becomes a seller's market 100% of the time. What I mean is, priced correctly, there are more than one buyer that wants to buy your house. And I realize that there's some holes in that, because an Encinitas house that's priced correctly could be $10 and everybody wants to buy that. But I'm just, from my experience of what's happening in our market, my opinion, it's only going to get, I was going to say worse. It's only going to become more of a seller's market.
Really? So you think the trend is higher?
Because it's May 1st, or what is it, May 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
In the short term, being 3, 4, 5 months, yes. I would suspect, my opinion, at worst, what we're going to see is a plateauing. What I would be very interested to look at is every one of these price reductions, looking at that specific property and say, how much lower, if lower, are they selling than their best comp? Are they selling near that next comp, below that next comp? Is there something unique about their property that isn't actually a good comp, whether it's funky floor plan or road noise or anything like that? I would suspect, or condition, of course, would probably be the next biggest. I would suspect that at worst, you are seeing less than a 2% drop in every one of those price reductions when they sell versus the most recent comp. I really do think that even in the markets that you talk about, and we'll look at data and throw data at each other via email with a take that. I don't think that we are seeing any depreciation yet. And of course, case-by-case basis, but I'm going to talk about in markets as a whole, including the Temecula and Chula Vista markets.
No. No, we're not seeing that.
So at worst, what I think we're seeing is a plateau in certain specific cases. But to me, if it's 0% appreciation or greater, that equals seller's market. So I win. We can shut this off.
Not true. Prices can still go up in a buyer's market. That can still happen.
Okay, I guess define a buyer's market to me.
Well, a buyer's market would be, a situation where homes are just, staying on the market longer, right? I mean, it's defined by that. And the national definition is that if homes are selling in less than 90 days, then that's considered to be a seller's market on average days on market.
Right.
And if it's over that, then it's a buyer's market. But there are certain areas where you can't, like where I'm from in Missouri, it's like you have to use a 6-month mark. Homes could be on the market 8 or 9 months, and that's just normal. Whereas here, you'd almost have to use like maybe a 60-day mark. Yeah. And we're probably still under that, as a whole.
Is that true?
Yeah, probably. I think we're under 60.
I guess my question is that true that a buyer's market, that you're considering a buyer's market purely based on, or that our definition of buyer's or seller's market is purely based on average market time? It seems to me that it should be based on value. I'm going to look that up. Yeah. We're going to email more about it. We're going to have the angry emails are going to be flying.
Yeah, this is going to be a long night. No, that's the definition. Buyer's market is defined by average time of market.
Okay.
But you have to, mold that per marketplace because,
right. No, I got you.
So if we say 60 days here, we're probably still under that, really close to it on average, because there are a lot of things that are still moving very quickly. But the stuff that's taking longer isn't taking that much longer. If a home sells in 70 days, 80 days, that's not really, affecting the average a whole lot. And there's not that much stuff that's really staying on longer than that and selling. But I've seen some properties that have been on for 180 days, 200 days, and have multiple price reductions. Still not there. Were they shooting too much for the stars to begin with? Obviously. Right. Do you know that when you're pricing the home to begin with? Probably not. But there's a couple listings you should take a look at. They're right in your wheelhouse and right over in your area in San Marcos. you know, where, you know, starting to see more price ranges.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and starting to see stuff that's like, well, wow, that range is way under the last comp. Like I could see right here, this house is pretty much the same square foot. It's in the same neighborhood, you know, and it sold for $655, but now we have a price range on this one here from $600 to $659. You know, it's kind of a strange deal. Or it's like, well, what's that all about? You know, why, you know, why?
Right.
Wouldn't, you know, if the comp was $659, if you want to be aggressive, list it at $649.
Right.
That'd be aggressive.
Absolutely.
You know, it's under 650. That's
Yeah.
a search
A
parameter
threshold,
mark.
yeah.
A search threshold parameter. So, but obviously, the agent is concerned.
Right.
And the only way you would feel that is if you had a reason to. So, I'm not saying this market's going to crash, that market's going to crash. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is that signs are there, and starting to see buyers get their way a lot more as well, with just in general negotiations, buyers pulling out too. In fact, I have a very close relationship with a really big mortgage company here, so I get tons of data from them about
Right.
fallout and things like that. A lot of buyers in the last 2 months, been a lot of buyers falling
I
out of
agree,
escrow.
and we talked about that before. Last year I had more cancellations in 2017. I started in 2005, than 2005 to 2016 combined. And we talked about the fear that goes into this market, where buyers in some cases have to give up everything and in order to get into escrow, and then they have some time to think about it and do have concerns. Am I creating a new top? Is there a new, is this the tippy top and things are going to turn from here? Should I wait? Should I take another look at this? We are seeing some of that.
I think an important point I should make too is that I do believe prices in San Diego go higher over the long haul. I don't think we're at the all-time top of the market. I do think prices will go higher, but it's going to take wage growth.
I agree.
And that's the one thing that we're struggling with here. There's an exodus taking place currently.
Yeah, I know Qualcomm just laid off, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong. I think it's 2,500 jobs. So that's going
Those
to
are good jobs.
Yeah, and those are six-figure income that is going to bring inventory in Del Sur and Forest Ranch and those communities that are strong communities. That's going to bring that inventory onto the market.
Most definitely. Not only that, but we have about 10,000 people a year leaving San Diego County right now. It's 2 years in a row. The prediction over the course of the next, I think it was the next 2 years? Dang, I can't remember. It was the next 2 years, I believe, between...
Just make it up. They won't know.
No, I'm going to actually post the link. This is on Fox Business, and they had a guy come on there, and there's these predictions on what's going to happen, and essentially in California, I think it's in the next year or 2 years, 300,000 people are going to leave the state of California, and they're going to Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. Those are the 6 states people are going to. Several of those states have no state tax.
Right.
All of them have much lower tax, basis. The ones that have no tax obviously do.
Right.
They have similar average wage per job in those places, but much lower real estate prices. So a lot of people are leaving California. Now, will we feel that? I'm not saying this because of that. I'm just saying that there are a lot of those kind of macro things that keep pointing over to this. There is a lot of interesting financing going on right now, but it's not what I would say risky financing. It's not, high LTV.
Right.
It's low LTV, interesting financing, so I think we're safe from that, which was the bubble that burst last time. But we do have, people leaving en masse. We do have, wage growth that's not really happening. And we do have the 7th or 8th straight year of price appreciation. Cycles are usually 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're now into that sort of red zone.
Right.
And just looking at the price reductions, man, I'm telling you, I am a buyer. I will buy real estate in San Diego. So I treat myself that way. When I look at the real estate, I look at it as a buyer, and I'm just telling you, when you see those price reductions come in bunches, it changes the way you look at that area.
I agree with that, and I'll look more at the price reduction piece of it. And to your point, as a buyer that's going to jump into this market, it requires that you wait 5 years, assuming that we have another year or two of appreciation, and then a plateau, and then a depreciation. Maybe you're waiting more than 5 years to jump into this market.
If you want to try to time it exactly.
If you want to try to time it exactly.
That's a very difficult thing to do.
And I would say, my opinion, most people that purchase in residential don't try to time it, since most people are not looking at it as an investment.
And I don't think you should.
Right.
I don't think you should try to time it. But, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do anything here, real estate wise. What I'm saying is that the overall things that are happening, where they're pointing at, and the way that makes buyers feel are a little on the negative side. And if that's the case, then we could see a mindset shift take place. We could see a market change a little bit. We could see some prices come in just a little bit. Not massive, but they should come in a little bit. So I think if you see something that you love and there's price reductions happening on it, freaking A, get in there. Like, that's when you should get in there and make a silly, not a silly offer, but that's when you should get in there and make an aggressive offer, meaning, hey, you know what? I was going to wait until next year to buy, but these guys have just reduced the price twice,
Right.
and the house is awesome, and I have no idea why no one wants to buy this place. So when I look at it, if everything checks out, I'm going to write them an offer.
Absolutely.
That's when you jump in. That's when you go in and get after it.
So, to that point, in your opinion, is this the time to jump in?
It could be in some of those areas.
To put you on the spot personally, are you looking to? I guess you're always looking.
I'm always looking.
As anybody that is looking for value is always looking.
I'm always looking, man. Always looking, and I get excited when I see that.
Right.
Personally.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that.
Yeah, you want to see 180 days on the market.
Yeah.
6 price reductions.
Right. That's not good for the seller
Right.
or the seller behind them, but it's great for me, and that's what I mean.
Right.
I'm starting to see things that make me start to go, damn.
See, on the flip side of that, what I tell clients that are in multiple offer situations, if there's 5 offers on a property, let's just say Carlsbad, Encinitas, something like that. There's 5 offers on a property and we're one of the buyers. What I tell them is the benefit of that is that if a market that your product, we called it coastal when we first started here, coastal or those markets will always be desirable in any market. And if right now there is 100 buyers, because there's a lot of demand, we'll just say, and 75 of them are looking in Encinitas and the rest are dispersed between the Chula Vistas and Temecula's where maybe there's more opportunities, then when there's only 10 buyers, because we're in a significant downturn, you're still going to have 7 of those 10 buyers looking in Encinitas. The idea being, if people are writing multiple offers on a property right now, it makes it a safer investment. Certainly, prices will go up and down. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to make money, but it means that there will be more desire for your property than an extremely unique situation, a property that's very rural, a property that's on 20 plus acres, a property that's et cetera.
In theory. very loosely tied theory you have there.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps, but I mean, to try to predict.
There it is. That's the best I've gotten out of it.
Perhaps. I mean, well, how the market will feel in that scenario, you never know.
Absolutely.
But I know that when I see something that I like, I know it right away. Like, obviously I host List It Live. Right. I see a lot of houses come through there. So, and the last 3 times I've hosted the show, save the 2 weeks I was gone for getting married and honeymoon, I've seen like 3 or 4 houses a show that I'm like, smoking deal.
Yeah.
Smoking deal. We had one on there today, Fallbrook, 585, 4-bedroom. Stupid. Like inside was dialed, sunroom, all kinds of, almost an acre of like flat, like playground land. fenced, $585. You know, I'm starting to see stuff. I see stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm not looking to buy in Fallbrook, so it's not really on my radar for me personally. But I can put myself in the position of, I could see where if I was looking in that marketplace, because I know the marketplace pretty well there, that's a smoking deal.
Right.
Smoking deal. Also seen some houses in Poway, for example, under $1 million. Big houses, big nice houses, pools and stuff like that, under $1 million. These houses were going for 1.2, 1.3, not that long ago. Not that long ago. Now they're priced under $1 million. Seen several of those. Also Del Sur, super duper awesome area. Again, it's one of those places I kind of compare it to Poway.
We put that on our flyers, just so you know.
What?
Super duper awesome area.
Super duper awesome area. And then a little picture of me.
I agree with your point of the psychology of markets, which is, I think, kind of an underlying piece of what you're saying, that the psychology of the momentum of lots of price reductions, those kinds of things. I think that what goes into multiple offer situations is the psychology of, if everybody wants it, then I probably want it. There is a little bit of, buyers I have found like the idea that somebody else wants what they want.
Yes, absolutely they do.
That's a comfortable feeling to know, as some reassurance that you are buying something that is going to hold its value. The problem, I would say, of a property that has been listed for 180 days and has 5 price reductions is immediately every buyer feels like, what's wrong with this?
Nobody wants that house.
Why does nobody want this house? Why is that? I mean, as a
I don't think they even wonder why. They just assume the worst.
Right.
That's not the one.
Right. I mean, and as a tangent, goes exactly to your story, bringing this full circle of list it with a good agent and price it correctly. Because if you shoot for the moon and you sit on the market for 60 days, you're only hurting yourself.
It doesn't matter how good the market is. It changes the way that your
perception
gets really bad.
Absolutely.
And the entire guiding principle behind selling anything. And why does anyone buy anything? Because they expect other people to want it or to like it, at least at the degree that they do. So even myself, for example, you know, why do I wear these clothes? You know, well, it's because I like it. But if everyone told me they hated it, would I do it? Probably not.
I think you look good.
Probably not. But people like my colors. They like my socks. You know, they tell me things like that. So we buy stuff, everything, car, house, clothes, haircut. I don't care what it is, because we think other people would want it. They'd be like, oh, that's so cool. That's the whole psychology behind the purchasing of anything and everything is because of what we expect others to think about it. So if there is a multiple offer situation, that plays right into that's the most beautiful thing for a seller. The most beautiful possible thing is for multiple buyers to be thinking, shit, everyone wants this house. We got to get it because we want the house that everybody wants.
And to your point, I would say, in my opinion, at times, it is also a reassurance. You said that it's the most wonderful thing to a seller. I don't want to go as far to say it's the most wonderful thing for a buyer either, as well, but it is reassurance to a buyer. It is the validation that we are in the right market, that we're in the right price point, that it's validation with that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because I mean, if you're in a single offer situation and things start to go awry, you go, well, gosh, I wonder if anyone else would even buy this place if we don't.
Absolutely.
Why are we the only people who want to buy this house?
Yeah, I heard Steve Ploetz say this is a seller's market. And there's only one offer on it, and it's us. This Ploetz guy doesn't even know what he's talking about.
So that is what people say, by the way. But the thing that's interesting about that is in most markets that's not the case. That's really a San Diego thing. That's totally a San Diego thing. You don't have that in most places in the country. You don't, there's no multiple offers and these bidding wars and things like that. Maybe they happen in some of the new construction projects where it's like, okay, certain people only want to buy new construction.
Yeah, and that's an entirely different market because it's a manipulated market where they purposely don't release property, and they do incentives on
They
some.
tear them up, and they do all that. All that stuff happens on purpose. It's all by design. This is different. We're talking about a resale market, you know, almost entirely, where you have a bunch of different dynamics in play. But the one macro factor that we don't have, which I think you need to have make the kind of run we've made, is the wage growth. We just don't have it. And until I see that change, even if it went up 10%, bro, I'm telling you, we're still so far away from where we need to be. I mean, average household income, 55 grand.
Yeah.
Average home, detached home, 550 grand.
Right.
That doesn't work out. That just doesn't last. It just can't.
You need dual income. I mean, it just.
But I mean, this is household income, not individual income.
Oh, good point.
Household income, 55. That's the average in San Diego County.
I was in a conversation with a client yesterday who's much older, and we talked about the occupations of people buying their first home these days versus the occupations of first-time home buyers when he bought his first house. I mean, he tells the story. He was married with a child. His wife didn't work, and he was an electrician and bought a house. And these days, then his wife became a public school teacher, and they had excess income, as he says wryly with his little smile. These days, a public school teacher and an electrician, it's hard to crack into this market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just not sustainable.
Right.
That couple needs to be able to buy a house.
I completely agree, and I do think that that's what's wrong with this market, is that the only way that you can crack into this market is if you've got $50,000 in the bank, and on top of that, 2 incomes that are each making 60 grand.
You got to eclipse 6 figures.
Yeah,
for sure. If you want a detached home, you know, there are still some opportunities. Like I was saying, starting to see them. Yeah. You know, but I would say that would signal more of a buyer's market. So it's time.
I love it.
Carrie, will you grab Steve's wallet?
Oh, no. I didn't realize it's this time.
It's that time. See here, I got to show you.
It's wallet
shame. There it is, right there. And that.
I don't think that is the camera large enough to.
It is. Look at this thing.
Yes.
It's almost as big as he is. Look at it. Look at this. That's actual size.
It's actual size.
Actual size of this wallet. Have you ever seen anything like that? It's completely.
That's how my back is so strong. When I'm out of whack.
I mean, look at this thing. Seriously. I have pretty big hands. I mean, look at that.
It doubles as a variety of different.
Bludgeon tool for sure.
I once was locked out of a house, and I was able to break through a window by just tossing it.
I mean,
reaching through to.
You pulled your jacket out of there earlier.
I did.
So
actually.
that's really handy.
That's hilarious.
And if you ever need to stand something up or like, you know, hold up a wall, you could just do that, and and you could easily just brace up like a whole.
I love
wall.
that you turned it when you realized, oh, his license is
His license is facing. I
better turn it
before it gets in focus. All right, so that's it. I rest my case.
So I win again?
I win. I easily win. It's one of those conversations you can't really win. Truly.
Yeah.
You can't win that argument.
Right.
But I will tell you that as a buyer, I'm getting pretty excited. I'll start sending you some stuff when I see it, and I'll be like, dude, look at this. Like, tell me that's not, I mean, sharks should be circling. The mistake that people will make, and I'll finish with this. The mistake that people will make is that they won't capitalize.
That's heavy. Let go or be dragged.
I'm just telling
That's
you that
heavy.
They won't capitalize on it, because what is likely to happen is people will say, when they see, you know, a little weakness, is they'll want to stay away from it. But I can tell you right now, this market isn't going to crash. This market isn't going to be where it's at today, 10 years from now. This market's going higher, for sure. If you see opportunity, take it. Take it. If you start to see like, oh man, these houses that were 1.2 and 1.3 are 9 something now, and that's the house you're looking for, get on that shit. Get on it quick, because it won't last. It won't last. There is as we said, there's some shadow inventory and mixed in those numbers that are already super low. The design for what's going to happen in San Diego, I think, is for higher wage growth. We have a lot of things that are breaking ground, especially in downtown, Idea District. We have a lot of companies that have committed, over 100 companies that have committed to moving to San Diego from Silicon Valley. Did you know that?
I had heard, I didn't realize it was the number was 100.
It's like 110
Yeah.
coming from Silicon Valley down to San Diego. Because people realize San Francisco sucks.
Right. Well, the Bay
It's
Area
cold.
is just,
It sucks.
and it's that real estate market is loose, is absolutely loony.
It is ludicrous
Yeah.
what's going on up there. And so people can come down here and pay their employees half as much as they pay them up there, and they can live a way better life down here. Listen, there's macro things that are really, really good, that are underlying, that are going to protect this marketplace. We don't have the liar loan crap. We don't have any of that stuff. What I'm saying is, though, if this, it has to move and sway. We've been in seller's market for 7 years. Even if the buyer's market is just this right here, even if it's just a little, you know, even if it's just that right there, you're gonna want to catch that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not telling you market's gonna crash, everyone should sell their house. I'm telling you that if you see an opportunity, which you might in the next 18 months, take it.
And there you have it.
And I win. All right, you can sign off before he gets a chance to say anything.